Hey there everybody, and welcome back. For those of you that are interested in purchasing the Garmin Forerunner 245 with music, this is the one that essentially has the advanced training features. Stay tuned, I'm going to be covering the basics and just kind of a general first impression of this device in this video. Now before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the channel for new content. Alright, so if you check in the description, you will actually see I have the unboxing video. This is a first impression video, and then I'll do a more detailed video, essentially once I've had some time to play around with the watch and use it. But I'm going to be comparing from a Vivoactive 3. I'll have a link in the description to the general review I did of this device. Now, to be honest, I feel like I'm going to have a love-hate relationship with this. So first and foremost, a couple of the primary differences between this and what we'll just call the Vivoactive series, or at least the Vivoactive 3. So general form factor is about the same. This watch just honestly feels, the Forerunner 245 feels a little cheap. So this Vivoactive 3 has a very similar band. So this is an aftermarket band I bought because the original one of these little keeper pieces broke. So this is an aftermarket band, but the device itself just, it has that healthy weight without being too heavy. Whereas this one, it just makes me wonder, it's so light, I'm just kind of curious, like, is there even anything inside of it? So that's the first thing. Second thought is it doesn't have a touchscreen. So you can't really interact with it at all, as opposed to the Vivoactive 3, where you can touch it to turn that backlight on. Now, pulling this out of the box, it did feel a little light, but outside of that, it pretty much feels and looks like a typical Garmin watch. Now, the tricky part about it is you have 5 buttons, and they aren't what I would expect from a consumer standpoint, having not experienced one of these watches before. So, first is the activity button is up here. Big red button, pretty self-explanatory, so that one, not really too confusing. This button down here is effectively your back button. You have your backlight button up here, and then these are your up and down buttons. So I would expect this one to be up, down, select, and back, whereas with this, that's not actually the case. So it's a little bit confusing. So for example, if we were to click the up button, you can click down, and you can click down again, and you'll see it basically goes through all of the various screens you have set up. You can turn backlight on or off by clicking up here. Again, this is your back button, and then you have your activity button right here. So you could select run, or you can press down to cycle through the various activities that you have. Now, you'll see if we go up to add, you're basically wondering, okay, well, what exactly do you do? You would think, okay, I would just press this button. But you'll see you can hold it for settings, training, and more, which the tips come up, which is nice. But I would think, okay, I'm at this point where they're forcing you to actually click that button. So we're going to go back. So we're at this screen again. So you may be wondering, okay, how do I add a new, or how do I select one? If you click this button up here, it chooses that activity. And then if you click here, it goes back, and then you can cycle up, select the new activity, press here to go back. So again, it just seems a little bit counterintuitive. I would have liked to see a different layout for these, but it's not that bad overall. It is a little clunky to try to use this without the touchscreen. So another thing to note is you can change the watch faces. So if you hold this button right here, you can change the watch faces. So you'll see we have these options here. And if you click that button, you'll see that it allows you to go between the watch faces. I'm not a huge fan of it though, because this is the activity button. So we can switch between watch faces, but it doesn't really tell you that you're choosing between the watch faces. So it's a little confusing. So we like this watch face. I'm just going to stick with it. You can get it in the Garmin IQ store, but just wanted to point that out. So you can just hit the back button, or if you hit this again, you'll see that we're basically going back into the activity. So we'll back out and just kind of leave it at that. So again, general first impression. The only other concern that I have is the bump on the back for the heart rate monitor is slightly larger than the Vivoactive 3. Again, very, very minor gripes, but I want to cover a couple of strengths as well. So with the Vivoactive 3, this is something I've noticed more frequently, but if I wear this when I'm in the shower, for example, the water gets on the screen and makes it completely unusable. Yeah, that's, understandable. It's water on a screen. People know about that. But the downside is it would start to reset and adjust things. So I used to have different data screens. I would scroll up and it would go through the different screens. But every time I would get out of the shower, it basically, at some point, had removed or started changing my settings. I would come out with a different watch face, or my activity screens removed, like the watch was actually changing functions. Now, you do have a lock if you hold the power button, but it's just annoying to, I expect to only have to lock the watch during activity. So that's one thing to note. So I'm glad I don't have a touchscreen anymore for that reason. It just does take an adjustment period. So if you're considering the 245, you're probably going to be looking at it for running stats, the extended battery life, things of that nature, and you may want the music, the music streaming capability or the music download capability. So again, it still seems like it's a pretty strong watch. It's just, I'm so used to coming to this side for the light. So I feel like for the first week or two, you have that adjustment period of going up here to click or tapping the screen, expecting something to happen. And then all of a sudden you have a bright screen with the run feature pulled up. So that's just kind of a general overview. Again, pretty solid feel overall. I don't like that Garmin still seems to only include one of these little keepers because they do seem to snap. But again, only time will tell on that one. So overall, it still seems to have some promise, so no questions or concerns from me. Hope you guys liked the video. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.